Hello, this is Justin Feyereisen, and you are listening to WRFW River Falls. I finally saw it after a few weeks, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how it compares to the 1990s version. So, it is the highest grossing horror movie of all time if you listen to Warner Brothers. And if you listen to other people, it is not, because Sixth Sense has grossed higher, and so has movies like I Am Legend. And this is a film that there was a 1990s version. It was a television miniseries. It was made in November of 1990, and it used non-linear storytelling and flashbacks. Then you had the losers as adult, and they go back to Derry, Maine because it has returned. And with the use of flashbacks, it has a stronger connection to these characters than the new version, because it shows Bill in the modern day, and then he goes, and you show flashbacks to him as a kid, and him establishing with the losers, and him with Pennywise, and then you go to Beverly, and you have her with what's going on in the modern day, and how she has to return to Derry, and her reaction, and Tim Curry in the 1990 version, fantastic actor, a huge part of my childhood with roles in the television series The Wild Thornberrys, Nigel Thornberry, Simply Smashing, they are simply smashing, and a fantastic film called Muppet Treasure Island, where he plays Long John Silver. Arr! But in it, he plays Pennywise the Clown. And the makeup is really cartoony, and it's really clownish, and it's like, oh, it's a clown, he can't be scary, but you underestimate Pennywise. You underestimate, because it's just a normal clown, but he is scary because you don't think he's going to be that scary. And this movie was made in 1990, and I just saw it a couple weeks ago to prepare myself. I'm like, I don't watch horror movies. Should I go see a horror movie in the theater? I don't think so, but I'll watch the earlier film to know if I can handle it. And then I know where the jump scares are, and I know where the scares are. So I saw this, and it was frightening. It was intense, but I wasn't really scared. I didn't jump out of my seat or anything. And I had the benefit of watching it on TV, recorded off the TV. So if it did get a little scary, I didn't use it, but I had the remote. I could fast forward through the scary parts. They had commercial breaks, which I fast forward through because it was on the DVR. So I'm like, if it gets too scary, I can just turn it off. But I watched it over a couple nights because it was 4.5 hours long, because it's part 1 and part 2. So this is the complete story, versus the one in the theaters now is just the part 1 of the story. And in the 1990 version, besides Tim Curry that does an incredible job, it's got a lot of other great actors that do an incredible job. You got Richard Thomas plays Bill. He is most known for John Boy Walton in the Waltons television series. There's Annette O'Toole that plays Beverly. I know her most from Smallville as Martha Kent, the mother of Superman. And this two-part miniseries over November 18th and 20th of the year 1990 had over 30 million viewers, and it was a hit. It was originally envisioned and pitched as an 8 to 10 hour long thing, because the book is 1,100 pages. And then ABC decided that that was too long, and it was a horror film and wouldn't really have the demographics that other people would have. So they decided, no, let's cut this down to 3.5 hours, an hour and a half over 2 nights. It's over 4 hours with commercials. But this is from 1990, and the effects somewhat do look dated because this is 27 years old. And you just look at the designs of Pennywise and how it is so much more creepier in the new version and the modern version. And it's less cartoonish, which is frightening, but in a completely different sense of the way, because you underestimated Tim Curry's Pennywise. You're like, he's a clown. He's not that scary. But then when he goes into all the dialogue and all the motions, and he has like a British Cockney accent, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this clown is terrifying. But Bill Skarsgård's clown in the new version, hi Georgie, it's me, Pennywise. And the eyebrows, they go down, the eyes glow, and it's like, oh my gosh, I am terrified of this clown. And why did I go see this movie? Well, the reason was, it was Monday night, I had nothing better to do, all my homework was done for the next day. My 9:30 class got canceled, so I'm like, well, if it's too scary and I can't sleep, I can sleep in the morning. And I'm like, I will test it out. I have a movie pass, which is one of the greatest inventions of all time. You sign up for a website. A month later, they give you a debit card. Go on the app. You select which movie you want. You select which time. Go to the theater, buy your ticket normally. Use the debit card instead of cash or your other credit card. And then the price of the movie is on that card. They know which one it is. And it's basically, you can see as much movies as you want, one per day, over the course of a month. And it's $9.95 a month. But they can raise this price at any time, and I've had it for 2 months, and it's still $9.95. So as soon as they raise it more, I'm probably going to cancel it. But right now, I love this thing. And I'm like, I haven't seen the movie It yet, and it's the #1 film of the box office, is what they were projecting on Sunday night. And then on Tuesday, they're like, just kidding, Kingsman actually won, but it was only a difference of like $30,000. And these two films, an American made, there's only like $200,000. It was so close. It was like photo finish is the word I'm looking for. It was a photo finish at the box office, and I'm like, I have not seen it, so I am going to see it. I have my large popcorn. I went to Hudson, so it's refillable, so it's $5.75, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just shove popcorn in my face. Gets too scary, just shove more popcorn into my face. I will not scream like a 12-year-old girl, which I thought I might. I will not jump out of my chair distracting the people behind me. And like I said, I went on Monday night. So there was only like 15, 20 other people in the theater. And the people in front of me, I'm like, I'm sorry, I've never seen a horror movie in the theater before. I saw The Conjuring on TV once, but I had to watch it over the course of 3 days because it was getting intense and scary. So I've never seen a horror film. This is the first one. This is an R-rated horror film, so I'm like, it's going to be even more scary than the other film, so I had to apologize to the people in front of me. I turn around to the people behind me and I say, I'm sorry, I've never seen a horror film in the theater. I watched The Conjuring on TV once. I had to watch it over the course of multiple days because it's too scary. And they're like, I've never seen a horror film either, so if you scream like a 12-year-old girl, that's fine with me. And I told everybody that I might scream like a 12-year-old girl, and I did not scream like a 12-year-old girl. I did not launch out of my seat. I did use another one of my favorite apps, the RunPee app, which you set the timer when the movie starts, and when the people that are in charge of the app say, this is the best time to go to the dialogue bathroom, there's no scares, there's dialogue that's easily summed up, I'm like, I'm not going to run and go pee, I'm going to run and go fill my popcorn, so when it starts getting scary at the intense climax of the film, I can just shove my popcorn in my face so I will not scream like a 12-year-old girl. And my strategy worked very well. And I am happy to say I did not scream like a 12-year-old girl. So this has become a horror phenomenon. It was #1 when it first opened. It stayed at #1 for 2 weeks in a row. And then it dropped to #2 when Kingsman came out. It dropped again. It was stayed at #2 this week. But I said they were so neck and neck. And this film was made for only like $30 million. And it's closing in on $500 million. So this is a very successful film. And this film is the first part in a duology, which is like a trilogy or a quadrilogy, but there's only two of them. And there was some rumors that they were going to split this into a part one and a part two, but that has been debunked, and they say, nope, we're focusing on a part two only. And although it is a long book, although there were talks in the 90s of making an 8-hour miniseries, we're only going to get a 4-hour version of this. And he says it's not a sequel, it's just a continuation of the story. So this film is doing so well at the box office. My question is, can it stay there? You got 2 weeks down the line, there's another horror film Happy Death Day. It's Groundhog's Day on Halloween, where you have to solve your own murder. The week after that, we got The Snowman, which this guy goes around murdering people and hiding their heads and other pieces of their body in the snowman. And then a week after that, we get another Saw film, we get Jigsaw. But is this film compete? And it's been competing, and it was released in September, and it has legs, and now as you get closer to Halloween films, there's going to be a lot of more people going to see horror films. Are they going to see this, or are they going to film the other films that come out later in the month? I think this is a very good horror film. It is rated R, because this isn't really that scary of a movie, but it is an intense movie. Where I had the fancy schmancy reclining seats, but I didn't recline my seat at once because I was on the edge of my seat, and I'm like, it's going to be harder to launch out of my seat if it gets scary if I recline, and it was comfortable not recline, so I did not recline. And my conclusion is, this is a terrifying film, but for a staple of the horror genre, which I am not an expert at, I know hardly anything about the horror genre. I've seen The Conjuring and Jaws, and some people don't even consider Jaws a horror film, as more of a thriller, but I think it is a horror film. It's about a shark trying to eat people. That's pretty scary. The clown was very scary. The clown was disturbing. Pennywise and "Hi, Georgie," the voice of the scary clown. And I'm like, okay, it's just a movie. It's just a movie. But I was talking 2 weeks ago and now about movies that deserve to be remade, and I think after seeing the 1990s version, after seeing this, it deserved it. The effects, when you got horror effects which are 27 years old, they were still scary, but they weren't as scary as they could have been. And that bathroom scene proves it, where a lot more blood, a lot more intensity, and I wasn't scared, but I was on the edge of my seat. I think the thing that this did not do as well as the other one is the 1990s version is differentiate between the characters. I think because they used the flashback in the 1990 ones, you're like, oh, this is Beverly as an adult, now this is Beverly as a kid, and now you focus in on Beverly for a little bit, and then you're like, oh, let's go to Mike, and Mike flashback, so now that's Mike versus Ben, and they keep doing this with the number of the sevens. This one did not use the flashback, so at the end of the movie, of the 7 characters, if you gave me a picture and it's had a point to every one of them and talk about which one is which, I would have identified 4 or 5. They did a good job on Bill, they did a good job on Beverly, and then you could tell ones that had different physical traits. And this film has beautiful cinematography, and they're unknown kid actors, but they did a really good job. And this film reminded me a lot of E.T. if E.T. was a horror movie with a scary clown instead of an adventure film with an alien. And I think that's one of the best strengths of this movie, because E.T. is an awesome movie. But I'm not really going to give you a score on it, because I don't really know how to talk about it, because I don't know much about the horror movies, and I couldn't compare it to the greatest horror movies of all time, or I could tell you it was a very good horror movie, and I did enjoy it for a guy that didn't like horror movies. And if you are interested in horror movies, I'd see this if you haven't seen this before, because this has been out for a month now, and I'm finally building up the courage to say, I will see this film. And I did, and that's my thoughts on the movie. If you've seen it, are you going to come back in September of 2019 to see the conclusion? Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Justin's a Critic, and if you tell me what your thoughts are on it.